Welcome to Mental Models Daily, where we explore one mental model each day to help you elevate your daily decision-making. Today, we're diving into a fundamental concept in scientific thinking and statistical analysis, the Null Hypothesis. The Null Hypothesis is the default position that there is no relationship between two measured phenomena or no association among groups. In essence, it's the assumption that any observed effect or difference is due to chance alone. It's like being the skeptic at the table, saying, "Prove it," to any claim of a significant finding or relationship. This concept was formalized in the early 20th century by statisticians like Ronald Fisher, as part of the development of modern statistical methods. At its core, the Null Hypothesis serves as a starting point for scientific inquiry. Researchers begin by assuming that their experimental manipulation has no effect, or that there's no difference between groups they're studying. They then collect data to see if they can reject this Null Hypothesis in favor of an alternative hypothesis. Let's consider an example. Imagine a pharmaceutical company is testing a new drug to lower blood pressure. The Null Hypothesis would be that the drug has no effect on blood pressure. The researchers would give the drug to one group and a placebo to another, then compare the results. If the difference in blood pressure between the groups is large enough that it's unlikely to have occurred by chance, they can reject the Null Hypothesis and conclude that the drug likely has an effect. In the business world, the Null Hypothesis approach is used in testing for everything from website design to marketing campaigns. A company might test two versions of an advertisement, starting with the Null Hypothesis that there's no difference in effectiveness between them. Only if the data shows a statistically significant difference would they conclude that one version is actually better. The power of the Null Hypothesis lies in its ability to protect us from seeing patterns where none exist and from overstating the significance of our findings. It encourages a conservative approach to interpreting data, helping to ensure that claimed effects are likely to be real and replicable. So, how can we apply the concept of the Null Hypothesis in our daily lives? Firstly, it encourages us to approach claims and apparent patterns with a healthy skepticism. Instead of immediately accepting that two things are related or that an intervention had an effect, we can start by assuming they're not related and look for strong evidence to the contrary. It's like developing a more rigorous scientific mindset in our everyday thinking. Secondly, understanding the Null Hypothesis can make us more sophisticated consumers of scientific and statistical information. When we encounter claims about the effectiveness of a product, a medical treatment, or a policy intervention, we can ask about the strength of the evidence against the Null Hypothesis. It's like having a built-in filter for distinguishing between robust findings and potential statistical flukes. Lastly, this concept can improve our decision-making by helping us avoid overreacting to random fluctuations or seeing patterns in noise. In personal finance, for example, we might be tempted to attribute short-term stock market movements to our investment strategy, when they might just be random variation. Thinking in terms of the Null Hypothesis can help us maintain a more balanced, long-term perspective. It's like having an anchor that keeps us steady in the face of noisy, variable data. In conclusion, the Null Hypothesis is a powerful tool for critical thinking and scientific reasoning. By embracing this mental model, we can become more rigorous in our analysis of claims and data, more resistant to seeing false patterns, and more effective in distinguishing genuine effects from random noise. In a world awash with data and claims of all kinds, the ability to think in terms of the Null Hypothesis is more valuable than ever. Thank you for joining me today on Mental Models Daily. Until next time, may your hypotheses be null and your conclusions robustly supported. For more mental models, please visit mentalmodelsdaily.com or find us on X or Instagram. Our podcast music was provided by the podcasthost.com and Alitu, the podcast maker. Find your own free podcast music over at thepodcasthost.com/free music.